Here we are. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this event in partnership with ETS Global. My name is Stefania, and I will be moderating this webinar on behalf of Doxity. So I see here that our first participants have joined us, so a warm welcome to all of you. We are just going to wait a few minutes before we dive into our session to ensure that everyone has a chance to connect. So in the meantime, don't hesitate to say hi or introduce yourself in the chat here on Zoom. Furthermore, we are curious to know where are you joining us from. So please take a moment to share your location in the chat. Thank you for being here, and we will start shortly. In the meantime, I wanted to inform you that we got also a Q&A session lined up right after the presentation. So this is your chance to ask all your questions to our panelists. So don't be shy. Go ahead and type your questions and curiosities in the Q&A box. We will be thrilled to answer them. Also, if you're interested in receiving a certificate of attendance issued by Doxity, stay tuned because we will provide more information after the presentation, along with a special discount from ETS exclusively for today's webinar attendees. So let's go now to the lineup. In today's webinar, we will cover the basics of applying to higher education programs. You will learn how to craft compelling letters of recommendation and essays with our expert tips. We will also discuss the TOEFL, the most widely accepted English test, and hear from a testimonial whose career was launched also thanks to this test. So as you can see, I will not be alone. Here with me, there are Candy, university admission expert, and Candy has helped more than 700 students get accepted into the world's most elite universities. Marta, English language training coordinator for ETS Italy. Marcus, English language training coordinator for ETS Spain. And Georgia, student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. So thank you for being part of this event, and thanks to all of you. Without further ado, let's get started. So Candy, the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I shall share my screen with you all. One moment, please. Okay. I believe you can see my screen, correct?
Yes.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Doxity. Thank you to ETS, to TOEFL, IBT, et cetera. It's so exciting to be here. I'm really happy to talk to you guys about study abroad and how to ace your university application to study abroad, because I'm absolutely passionate about it. It's something I really and truly care about. It's my work. It's what I do every day. So I'm hoping that I can share with you some tips that will help you do the same, will help you ace your application. First of all, you're probably wondering who I am and why I'm going to talk about this. Well, my name is Candy Lee Labal, and since 2005, I've been working to take out the mystery and the misery of applying to university programs abroad. I was recently voted the #1 consultant in the world, which was kind of crazy and also very humbling, and I'm very a good reflection of what my clients think about me. I am a board member and incoming president of AGAC. So AGAC is the only organization in the world dedicated to the ethics, professionalism, and transparency of admissions consulting. And best of all, I've helped 700 people get into university programs around the world, and I'm hoping that today, with some of my information that I share, that I will help you become one of them too. So to get started, in order to ace your university application, you actually kind of first have to know a bunch of stuff, okay? There's some basic things you have to know. First thing is that there are different types of university degrees. So in order to ace the application, you need to know what you're applying to, because the application process will be a little bit different. The basic one is called the undergrad degree or the bachelor's. So this is the degree that you would apply for when you're 17 or 18 years old and you're ready to go study economics or history or engineering. So the first time you go to university or college, you would be applying for an undergraduate degree. The next one, we have two different types of masters. So there's something called the pre-experience masters, and this is very important to know what that means, because what pre-experience means is that there's no work experience. You finish your undergraduate degree and you go directly into one of these master's programs. So master's in management, or the MIM is a very good example. Some of the master's in finance programs are pre-experience, and pretty much any other master's program. So master's in engineering, master's in astrophysics, whatever it might be. You would do those without work experience. So as you can imagine, a post-experience degree requires work. The most common post-experience degree is the Master's of Business Administration, or the MBA. You have to have a minimum of 2 years of work experience to qualify, to even be able to apply. Like before you can apply, you need that experience. Some Masters of Finance, other different degrees like an MPA also require experience. So it's very important that before you start your university path, that you know what kind of degree that you are applying to. Okay. Now, in order to apply to these different degree programs abroad, you have to have certain things. I like to call these the basics, like the core of what's necessary. First thing would be an academic record. So an academic record is proof that you have an education, that you're smart. If you're applying for an undergraduate degree, you need a high school diploma. Maybe you have an IB. If you're in Spain, maybe you have a bachillerato. This is your high school degree that says, hey, I completed my 12 years of study. I'm ready to go. Let me into your program. If you're applying for a graduate degree, whether it's pre-experience or post-experience, you're going to have an undergraduate already. It goes undergraduate, then master's, one and then the other. So you have your bachelor's degree already. Now, the academic record is very important because when you apply to a university abroad, they want to know if you have the academic ability to succeed in their program. So good grades are essential, right? So any of you who are still sitting in your university program thinking, oh, I'm going to go abroad in a couple years, please focus on your grades. You want to get good grades because they really are going to help you have more success. We think about grades in terms of what we call the GPA. So when you apply to different universities, if it's from Harvard to the University of Exeter to Birmingham to Cambridge, they're going to ask about a GPA. So the GPA is your grade point average. I'm from America, the US, we use a 4-point system, right? I'm not going to tell you what my grade point was, but it was out of a 4. Here in Spain, where I live, we use a 10-point system. So I might have an applicant who's going to the Polytechnica of Madrid, and they would have a 7.8 out of 10. In Italy, I understand that you use a 30-point system. It's very important when you present your academic record to a university abroad that you keep your grade in your local system. So if you went to a US university, you say, I've got a 3.6. If you went to a Spanish university, you report your 7.8. You don't convert it back into a different system. I think that's really important to know. I think it's an important tip to share with you. So that's your first basic, to have an academic degree with really good grades. Now, the second thing you're going to need in order to ace your application is letters of recommendation. Pretty much every university out there, from Brown to Stanford to ESA in Barcelona, is going to require letters of recommendation as part of the application process. And they're important. They're not simple like, dear school, we think Maria's great, but they're much more detailed. Depending on the type of degree you're going for, it will depend on the type of recommender you ask. So if you're applying for your very first undergraduate degree, your bachelor's or pre-experienced master's like a MIM, most of the time you need a professor. You'll need between 1 to 3 professors who are going to write a letter of recommendation for you. You can also get, if you've done internship, if you've done some sort of part-time work or volunteer work, you can probably use a supervisor from that as well. Now, a post-experience master's, as we know, requires work, so you have to have a work supervisor. For an MBA, you cannot choose a professor. It's not that it's not allowed, it's just not going to help your application. You're not going to ace your application if you do that. So very important that you know who to choose. Now, when you choose them, let's say you ask your professor, you ask your boss to do it, they have to work. They have to do some work on your behalf. They have to either write a letter. That letter might say, dear admissions, my name is Professor Joe. I work at the University of Birmingham, and I want to strongly recommend Marcus as a great applicant. That's one way. Most of the time, it's going to be a series of questions. So anywhere between 4, 5, or 6 questions, asking things like, please describe the applicant's strengths. Can you describe the applicant's weaknesses, their academic ability, etc. So these letters are pretty intense. They might be 1,000 words or even more. It's a lot of work. So it's very important that the person you ask likes you and knows you. And so this is why this tip I'm going to tell you right now is probably one of the most important tips I can give anyone who's at the very early stages of applying to a university abroad is that you need to build relationships. If you are in university right now and you're thinking you're going to go to study abroad in a couple of years, you need to look around, find a professor, and build a relationship. See if you can do some teaching assistant, or maybe they can help you with your thesis. But if you try to go to a professor that had 80 students in the class and you were just one of them, how are they going to write you a letter? They don't remember you. You need to build a relationship. Same thing for, the MBAs or the post experience. You want to make sure your boss likes you, so you have to ask for a supervisor. Make sure you have a good relationship with that supervisor, because that good letter of recommendation is going to go really far into making sure that you can ace your application. So building relationships, super important. And then we have the tests. So if you want to study abroad, pretty much every university out there is going to have some sort of standardized test that you have to take. In the US, we have, for undergrad programs, we have a test called the SAT. There's another one called the ACT. If you want to apply it to the UK, there's a different type of test. If you're looking for a graduate degree, whether it's a MIM or a master's in finance or an MBA, you're going to have to take GRE, a GMAT, an LSAT. There's so many different types of tests. So know what program you're applying to and make sure that you take the right test. However, all of them are going to require an English language test, such as the TOEFL IBT, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit more today. If you're from a country where English is not the first language, if you go to a university or high school where English is not the main language, you're going to have to take the test. And it's a very, very important part of applying. It's one of the basics. So I'm going to turn the screen over now to Marcus and Marta, who are going to talk to you about TOEFL IBT.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Candy. That's really, really useful information and really important. A lot of key issues there that students should be aware of. So yes, we are going to talk about the TOEFL test today. As we said at the beginning, my name is Marcus. I'm the ELT coordinator for Spain and Portugal. And Marta, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you again, Candy. My name is Marta. I'm ELT coordinator for Italy, and I'm based in now rainy Milan.
And I'm based in luckily sunny Madrid.
Always
Originally from New York, but based in Madrid. So welcome again, everyone. Bienvenidos a todos. Benvindos. Benvenuti a tutti. And let's jump right in to the TOEFL, which is a test. And what better way to start talking about a test than giving you a little test right here. A little pop quiz for you. Just a quick question. Do you know how many institutions accept the TOEFL IBT test worldwide? Don't worry, I'll give you 4 choices here. We have A, 2,500, B, 5,200, C, 12,500, or D, 125,000. What do you think? You can just take a quick guess, type it in the chat, A, B, C, or D. C? Okay, I see. Okay, I see some answers there. I see, quite a few C's. Okay. All right, anybody else? Last chance. Yes, the correct answer is indeed C. The TOEFL IBT test is accepted and preferred worldwide. It is actually accepted by over 12,500 institutions, meaning universities, grad schools, for visa purposes as well, for professional purposes, for working as well in many countries, over 160 countries around the world. And one of the common misconceptions people have with the TOEFL is that it's a test that you only need if you're going to study in the United States. And while that's true, it is accepted at 100% of universities in the United States, and it is the preferred test for 90% of the universities there. However, it is also accepted at 100% of universities in the UK, in the United Kingdom, 100% of universities in Ireland, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and it is actually the preferred test in many, many countries around the world. So it is a test of academic English, and it is a test that really helps to prepare you for the kind of activities and the kind of skills that you will need to use in a real life English academic setting. Okay, so if you're planning to study at a university in English, the types of tasks that the TOEFL asks of you actually help to measure your English very accurately. And it consists of 4 sections. The reading section first, which consists of 2 texts, followed by 10 questions each. Then we have the listening section, which consists of 3 lectures or talks given by a professor and 2 conversations. Then we have 4 speaking tasks, which actually are not just speaking. They actually use what we call integrated skills, meaning that it's, again, this is a test which is very practical in the sense that you will be asked to do things that you would probably have to do at the university. So for example, you would have to listen to a lecture by a teacher talking on a topic, then maybe you would have to read something on the same topic, and then you would have to produce speaking or writing based on the input that you receive. So both the speaking and the writing sections are not just speaking, not just writing, but they also combine the skills in a very realistic way to be able to show that you can understand the information, process it, and synthesize it, being able to compare and contrast and all these things that you'll have to do in your classes at the university. One of the things I should point out too is that the test, of course, has changed over the years. It has evolved quite a bit. And now the test is just under 2 hours. So this is a test which basically you can take once, and it's a multi-level test. So it covers from B1 to C2. And depending on your score, certain universities will actually require certain minimum scores. So speaking of scores, I'll just go, before we go to the scores, there are 2 ways to take the test. The first way is what we call the test center, or the classic way of taking a test, meaning that you would go to a test center, and they have usually several different dates per month, sometimes several dates per week, depending on the season and the location. In Spain, for example, we have approximately 40 test centers in Spain and 3 in Portugal. In Italy, Marta, how many do you have test centers right now?
About 35.
35, yeah, in Italy. So it is quite easy to find a test center. There are sessions every month, various sessions, depending on the city where you live. But we also have the home edition as well. So for the home edition, we have the opportunity to actually do the same exact test from the comfort of your own home and using live proctoring. So there is a monitor who will actually be present during the entire test, looking at you through the camera and using artificial intelligence, eye tracking, make sure you're not cheating. But it is exactly the same test that you would do in the test center. Of course, you always have to check with the university to make sure that they accept both the test center and the home edition, but many universities will accept either one. And finally, going back to the scores here, as I mentioned, it is a multi-level test, so it covers from B1 to C2, meaning that you take the test one time, and depending on your score, it will give you a language level, both in total and based on individual skills. So we have reading, listening, speaking, writing. Each section is equally weighted, 30 points per section, for a total of 120 points. So for example, if you get anywhere between a 72 to a 94, that would be in the B2 range, which is the range that most universities tend to ask for as a minimum. starting at 95, that would be the C1 range. 95 to 113 would be C1. And to give you an example, Harvard University requires a score of 95, sorry, 105, 105, which would be a strong C1. So in the middle, C1 to C2. So each university can actually require their own minimum score depending on the university, but also sometimes depending on the program or the department as well. And they might also require a minimum score in a specific skill as well. So for example, they might want to see if you can really speak English, so they might require a certain minimum in the speaking section as well. Martha?
Okay, thank you, Marcus. Yes. So now that Marcus has told you everything you need to know about the structure of the test, what the test looks like, the different section, the score requirements, where to take the test, your next questions might be, okay, but how do I register? And first and foremost, how do I prepare for the test? So the registration process is very easy and straightforward. You see these 4 steps here. You first create your TOEFL account. Creating your TOEFL account is completely free, so you can do it, of course, ahead of time, and it will be also useful for your preparation. You will see in a second. Then you decide whether to take the test at home for the home edition or in a test center. And in this case, you pick, of course, the test center, the location. For both the home edition and the test center test, you pick a date and time. And finally, you complete the registration and you proceed with the payment. And once again, I would like to remind you that we have good news for you, because we will, before finishing the webinar, we will be sharing a discount code for you, valid in Spain, Portugal, and Italy, our 3 countries. So what is next is our preparation. This is what your profile, TOEFL profile will look like. So you can see it here. You can register for the test. There's a button, but if you navigate on the bottom left-hand corner of the page, you see a section dedicated to test preparation. And just by clicking on it, you can access our preparation hub that is called TOEFL Test Ready. So what will you find in TOEFL Test Ready? Everything you need to prepare for the TOEFL IBT. You will find both free material and paid resources. What we would like to share with you is always the free resources, because what I always say, I don't know if you, Marcus, agree, is go for the free resources first, and then if you need something else to purchase something else, you can always do it in a second move. So there are 3 main free resources in TOEFL Test Ready. The first one is our first point here, the rotating activity of the day. So every day in the TOEFL Test Ready portal, you will find a free activity that can be listening, reading, speaking, writing, whatever. And it's mostly AI scored. So even for the writing tasks or the speaking tasks, AI will actually score your answer and give you some feedback and tell you, okay, you got this answer, you got 4 out of 5, you need to improve this or that skill, this or that point. You also have the practice test, which we recommend you should absolutely take when starting maybe your prep journey and right before the actual TOEFL IBT test, because it's exactly the same as the real thing, as the TOEFL test. And it is, again, scored by AI. So you will get a very clear idea of your final score. And once again, you will get some tips on how to improve things that maybe you should still develop a bit more. And also, you have the personalized study plan that you see here on the bottom. It means that just by entering some information about how long you have to prepare, what is your target score, you will get a personalized, very detailed study plan with all of the checklists. So let's say you want to put a boost on writing because you feel a little weak on writing, and you have, I don't know, 4 weeks to prepare and you aim at taking a 95. The personalized study plan will give you a step-by-step checklist to follow for your preparation. So this is very, very useful. And again, it's all available for free in TOEFL Test Ready together with other paid material. This is an example just for you to see of how AI scores the so-called productive skills, so speaking and writing. This is a writing task, the academic writing for an academic discussion task. You will see that this answer was scored 4 out of 5 points, and then you could click on the eye and see what it means. And it scores these language skills or categories. So grammar, usage, mechanics, organization development. And the problem with this answer was in the organization development part. So you know that in order to improve, you will need to work on, for example, supporting your ideas or stating a main idea, or the transitional words and phrases. So moreover, additionally, etc., etc. So you know exactly what it is that you're still missing and what you need to work on to get the best possible score. So we just gave you a quick glimpse, a quick idea of what the TOEFL IBT is, how to prepare, how to register, and everything. You can scan here if you want some more information. Then we will afterwards leave our contact so that you can keep in touch. And you can also follow us on our social media. We're everywhere if you want to know all the latest news about our tests, plural, not only TOEFL, but in this case, TOEFL specifically. And now let me stop sharing my screen. Okay, there we go. And let me hand it back to Candy for some more valuable insights on how to write an admission essay. Candy, the floor is yours.
Okay, perfect. Green and share. Okay, thank you, thank you. Thank you for sharing that information. It's so interesting because I used to teach TOEFL years ago, and to see how it's changed and streamlined and sort of just really adapted to, the current world we live in. So that's very exciting. Thank you for talking about that. Wonderful. So I'd love to just do a quick review about what I was talking about before when we started this session, which is sort of like what I call the basics, right? You want to get into a top university abroad, you have to have these basics. So we talked about a diploma or a degree. You need good grades, so go ahead and get those good grades, the strong GPA. Letters of recommendation are so powerful. So build those relationships. Make sure you know which tests you have to take at which university and for which program. Get your TOEFL IBT score. And as Marcus was explaining, each school or each program might have a different score that you need. So make sure you know what you need and you get it in time. More basics of applying, a lot of what we call the post-experience programs like MBA, you have to have a resume. You have to fill out an application where you put a lot of data, data points about yourself. It's actually called a data form is the name of the application. So these are the basics. If you want to ace your university application, you need this. Like this is the foundational, but basics are not enough. Basics are not enough. The programs, that we're looking at abroad that you might want to study in are competitive. They're attractive. People around the world would love to go to these university programs. So they're going to have good grades and great diplomas and wonderful test scores and wonderful letters of recommendation. So you got to have that base, but you got to go a little bit further as well. And the way you do that, the way you sort of really stand out would be the essays. Okay. So pretty much every university, whether it's Harvard or HEC in Paris or the University of Tennessee, require essays. Sometimes it's one essay, one essay of 1,000 words. It can be up to 10 essays. Maybe you need to write a total of 500 words or a total of 5,000 words. Again, it depends on the program. It depends on the university, but you're going to have to write essays. That is absolutely fundamental. And doing them well really is the secret of acing your application. So there's lots of different types of essays. So personal statement is a fairly generic, broad term. It's sometimes called a statement of purpose. So this is usually an essay that asks you, why are you applying here? What do you want? Why are you going to this program? Why do you think you're going to excel? That sort of thing. So it's a fairly broad and generic essay. Other essays are more focused, such as what are your goals? Tell us about your goals. What do you want to do following this degree? What do you want to do with your life? Some essays, specifically ask more about you as a person. Tell us about yourself. Who are you? What makes you tick? There's usually going to be some sort of question around why do you want this degree? Why do you want to go to this university? Those are almost always a given. And so much more. There are so many more different types of essays out there. Here are a couple, well, a few, I've got 6 here, that are in circulation right now, that people are writing these essays right now for different programs around the world. Share something meaningful to you. So here, the school would like you to share something that you care about, why you care about it, how it enriches your life, etc. Another common essay is a time you faced an obstacle or a challenge. And of course, what did you do and what did you learn? Tell us about someone you admire is also a common essay. What matters most to you and why? We call this the Stanford, this is the Stanford MBA big essay. They've been asking this big, giant, what matters most to you essay for years. It's it's intense and fun. A time you promoted inclusivity or you promoted diversity, or any sort of form of tell us who you are, right? There's a wonderful essay from Duke University that says, list 25 random facts about yourself, which is a really, really fun essay. So essays come in all sorts of different shapes, all sorts of different requirements. Before you write them, though, I want you to understand, this is very important, there are some rules you have to follow. Every year I meet applicants who applied, they gave their heart and soul, and they're like, I didn't get accepted, what happened? And when I go to check what they did, I found out that they broke some basic rules. So one of the basic rules is answer the question. Okay, that seems obvious, but many people get so overwhelmed, like I'm applying to MIT, oh, I'm applying to Cambridge. They get really nervous and they end up going off track. So maybe the question says, what are your goals? 300 words, what are your goals? And they spent 200 words talking about their grandfather's childhood in Peru and the civil war in Ethiopia, or just something that matters to them and makes sense in their head, but it's not answering the question. So answer the question that is being asked. 2, follow the guidelines. So every essay has a guideline, 500 words, 50 characters, double spacing, some sort of like formatting that you have to follow. If you don't follow those guidelines, pretty much all this amazing work that you did to apply is going to be jeopardized because you didn't follow the rules. So please, please, if they say essay limit is 500 words, okay, you can write 504, but you can't write 520. You need to follow the rules. Number 3, use a structure. So in English writing, as you probably have learned already, there's always going to be a beginning, introduction, the middle, which is sort of the body of your essay, and then an ending. You want to have that sort of clear structure. You want to use clear and normal language. So applying to a university is not an exercise in poetry or literature. Well, I mean, if you're applying for a master's in poetry, yes, then you have to be poetic. But for the most part, you need to use clear, normal language. Answer the questions in the type of words that you use every day. You don't have to use fancy, crazy words that you don't normally use. Of course, the words you do use need to be correct. You need to have correct grammar, correct spelling, and punctuation, which means you need to get your essays edited and proofread. Now, you can hire an admissions consultant, but you can also ask your mom, a friend, a colleague. A lot of different people can sort of help you. You just don't want to write and send it on your own. Definitely have someone take a second look. So these are the rules. All right. The next thing you need to know, even before we start writing, is you need to know who is reading your essay. So again, a lot of people get very nervous if they're applying to Oxford or they're applying to Berkeley or UCLA. They get super nervous about it. Oh, I gotta be so impressive and stuff. And they forget they're talking to a person. There is a person reading your essay. It is a person who maybe that morning got up and stubbed their toe or got stuck in traffic or whatever. They just got engaged. But they're a person. You need to remember that they are there reading a lot of essays in one day. Some schools have 30, some up to 100 in a day. And I'm actually not kidding there. So it's intense. It's an intense job for them. They're reading and reading. Maybe they're going to spend 5 minutes on your essay. Maybe they're going to spend 15. Harvard Business School, I know for a fact, will spend 2 hours. Thank you, Harvard Business School, for taking that effort. But for the most part, they're whipping through it. So they need to understand your answer, right? Remember what I said, you need to answer the question and follow the rules. This is where it matters, okay? So they're stressed, they're going through this, so they're under pressure, and your job as the essay writer is to make their job easier by writing essays that they're going to like, writing essays that make them like want to know you more, that they're reading and maybe they smile, maybe they're thinking, oh, this is not just another engineering student. Yeah, ooh. And suddenly they like you, right? Now that sounds like nice, simple advice in this beautiful bullet point. I know it's not that easy. So let's go look into a little bit more about how we do that. I talk to a lot of admissions people all the time. Once you start your university process, you're going to be reading blogs and essays, and you're going to hear these two words nonstop: be authentic, be authentic. What are you looking for in admission in an essay? We want to see applicants who are authentic. But what does that mean? What does it mean to be authentic? Well, it means a lot of different things. It means to be honest, to be you. Don't make up some stuff. If you graduated, number 3 in your university, you don't have to talk about you graduating number 1. Don't, just be honest. If you graduated number 50, it doesn't matter. Be honest and be you. Tell your story in your own voice, in the words that you would use. Now, I have to add here, please don't use ChatGPT. ChatGPT is not at a level yet where it emulates a real authentic voice. And think about it. Imagine you're at a party and you meet this amazing person. They're like, oh, tell me about yourself. Are you going to run to the bathroom and pop into ChatGPT to get your story out perfect? It's like, no, you're going to start telling your story from your voice. That's the voice you need for your essays. When you're writing the essays, another way to be authentic is to share the why behind your choices. Now, it's easy to say, I chose to study biology. I have a degree in microbiology. I have a degree in environmental sciences, or I started my career here, or I decided to move there. That's fine. Those are facts, but we need the why. Why did you study these things? What excited you about biology? Why did you move to Germany? Why did you do these different things? Because that's what makes you more authentic, right? Makes you more real. Don't be afraid to share what you care most about. Remember a few slides ago, I told you about that wonderful Stanford essay that says, what matters most and why? Admissions director a couple of years ago acknowledged that the majority of people who write that essay talk about family, friends, and faith, because that's the things that matter most to them. Of course, they build the whole essay around the rest of it, but it's what they care about. That's where they start their essays. Don't be afraid to share what you enjoy, whatever it might be, and to show your unique self. So these are all things to do. Again, it's easier for me to say this to you than for you to do it, because it is going to take time. You cannot start your university application essays a week ahead of time, right? Or even a month. You really need to start this whole process 6 months ahead of time, even more, to really sort of self-reflect and figure out, who are you? What do you care about? Now, I always suggest to my applicants that I work with that before we even get to the essays, before we even talk about those, let's think about who you are. So these are just, I give my clients a list of like 100 questions, but here are some of the more common. What do you care most about? What are you most proud of in your life? What is your superpower? This is one of my favorite. I've had several applicants who are just, I don't know what to say. I don't know who I am. And then I say, what's your superpower? And they're like, bing, it appears. I remember one wonderful girl who told me that her eyes lit up and she's like, oh, she's like, I make things happen. Whatever it is, I can get it done. And from there, she knew what to do. She was able to build a whole story from there. What makes you unique? What makes you special? What do you dream of? These are all things that are going to help you to find your authentic story. Okay. I want to give you a couple of quick examples just so you can kind of see what this looks like in an essay. Now, you could begin an essay saying, I graduated at the top of my class in my country's best engineering program. That's fine. That's okay. Or you could say, I always loved taking things apart to see how they worked. So going to engineering school was a dream for me. Now, I had a client a few years ago who started one of his essays saying, When I was 6 years old, I took apart my toy car and put the motor in my Playmobil and created a motorized Playmobil, right? Guess where he went to university? MIT. Because that essay resonated, it told them who he was and the way he thought from the time he was a little kid until now. So you don't be afraid to share these sort of like stories. My goal is to work in consulting at a top firm and to specialize in energy. Fantastic. That's a great goal. Why? I'm happiest tackling tough problems, and in consulting, I want to tackle climate change, and working in energy projects is a great way to start. So this second example, first of all, says a little bit about who's writing it. They're happy. They like to be challenged. They like tough things. Well, guess what you do in university? A lot of tough problems. They care about climate change. They want to try and make things work. They understand that if I learn about energy, I can probably, go to the next level. So they're saying the same thing, but one is giving so much more information to admissions. I deeply admire Steve Jobs, or Warren Buffett or Nelson Mandela. I mean, these are all wonderful, wonderful people. They're wonderful people to admire, but it's a little generic, really. I mean, a lot of people could say they admire Steve Jobs, but not a lot of people could say, my grandmother broke gender barriers to become our town's first female mayor. Or my single mom did this, or my grandfather is my idol, or whatever it might be. If you get more personal, you're sharing more of who you are, you're being more authentic. And even the story, the sentence itself is telling us the person who wrote this essay is coming from a place where people fight for their goals. They're not limited. They don't accept the status quo. And by, we can also, if I'm the reader of the essay, I can assume, oh, this applicant must also be like that. So those are samples of how to become authentic. Now, one thing I want to leave you with, now this is Dr. Seuss. Well, this is the cat in the hat. He's from Dr. Seuss. So if you don't know Dr. Seuss, he's full of so much wisdom. And one of my absolute favorite things to tell any applicant writer, essay writer, is that today you are you, and that's truer than true. There's no one alive who is youer than you. Being you, being authentic, sharing what you care about, what makes you tick, that is the absolute secret to acing your university application. And you got it. You're already you, so you know how to go for it. Now, we are going to move on and we're going to meet someone who's actually already done that. She's already aced her application. So I'm going to go ahead and sign out, and we will have Georgia come on.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you very much, Candy. That was very insightful. And yes, as Candy said, we have a testimonial, somebody who has already aced her application, Giorgia Italia. She's an Italian student who, much like you, was preparing to embark on this journey as an international student in the US just last year. And now she has successfully completed her first year of college. I won't say more because I will let Georgia tell you all about it. Hi, Georgia. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm good, thank you.
So, tell us a bit about yourself. So, what motivated you to go study in the US? What can you tell us what you do there? If you like it so far, tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, sure. So I mainly chose to go study in the US during my fourth year of high school here in Milan. We have 5 years total here in Italy, which is very different from what they do in the US. And I just decided to go abroad for 6 months at first, and I absolutely loved it there. The school system, all the different courses, I just preferred the way of like education that they have. So it's not just school, but it's much more than that. And then when I had to come back, I went back to school in Italy for about 2 weeks, and I did not like it. So I talked with my parents and I just told them, like, I want to go back. And at this point, it was November. So I was pretty late with my applications because they were due the first days of the new year. So I was a little bit stressed, but I was able to do everything in 1 month. And I applied to about like 12 schools. So a lot of essays. But yeah, I got accepted.
Yeah. Right. That would be my second question to you. So, what was your experience? You anticipated something with the application process for studying in the US, and so the challenges you faced and the ones you overcame apparently. And did something that Candice said resonate with you?
Yeah, for sure. So at first, again, application process very stressful. I felt very overwhelmed, especially having such a short amount of time to get everything done. But definitely, for the US at least, they have like the Common App, and basically you have a bunch of schools all in the same kind of application portal, so you can kind of share some of the information to all of them, and you don't have to do everything like singularly, which was very helpful. And again, a thing that I would like advise is while you're writing your essays, most questions are different for the different schools. They want to know different things, but some of them are pretty much the same. So if you can use one essay for multiple applications and just change it a little bit around, definitely like that's a smart thing to do. You don't have to write like 20 different essays because it's crazy. But yeah, and then again, applications letters for sure, ask someone that like actually knows you, because they want to know personal things about you, like how you act in like the real world, and not only how your grades are. Of course, grades are also important, but they want to know if you could fit in the environment of the school and the community that you're going to join. That was like a big thing for me, that I also wrote on my essays. I also had a few interviews for like scholarships, and I saw that a point that they were really interested in was like community and being a member. They want you to go to university and be a great student, but also be part of like their everyday life, clubs, association, everything that they have to offer, sports. It's much more than just school, even though of course the academic part is very important. So definitely essays was a big part. I had like my parents read them over. That was very helpful. And yeah, application letters, people that know you, that can like talk well about you, for sure. And then they want to see your extracurriculars, volunteering. I think volunteering is also something that makes you kind of stand out, because you do things that you like, such as sports, clubs, but also something that is like not for yourself, but for the community. And again, big on community. So that would be the application part that was very important for me, definitely. And I
You
also
haven't told us yet, Georgia. Sorry to interrupt. You haven't told us yet what you study and where.
Oh yeah, sorry, my bad. So I'm a student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. I just finished my first year, and I'm studying. My major is animal science, and I have a minor in art history. So my to become a vet. So I'm gonna try to get on the pre-vet track next semester, and I'm loving it there so far. Really, I love the school. I love the area. Also, a big part was like the area for me, choosing like where to go. So I'm in Massachusetts, kind of near Boston, like 2 hours from Boston. Yeah. And no, I definitely love it. I love the US, and I'm so happy that I'm there. And also part of the application process that I was just thinking about, definitely the language proficiency, especially as an international student, they know that you're able to understand the courses and that you can live in
Exactly.
the country, because otherwise it won't work.
And that would have been my last question for you. So how did the TOEFL test contribute to this journey of yours towards studying internationally?
Yeah, so another thing that I would say is very big when you're looking into the schools that you know you want to apply to, they kind of all have this different like proficiencies, that like exams specifics that they want you to give them. So definitely see where you want to go, and then look at all the exams that you have to take, because for me it was multiple ones. And the TOEFL, I did it online last year. Yeah, so I had it like proctored. I did the practice, everything that you were talking about earlier. And then I got the grade that I needed for certain schools, not for others. But again, you have a big variety of all the proficiencies that they need. But yeah, definitely it helped me. And also in the schools that didn't like require the TOEFL, I still sent it in, because I was like, I mean, I might as well. It looks good. Like they can see that I have multiple like proficiency exams. I'm well rounded. So even if you have to do multiple ones, and that could be a little bit overwhelming, still like take advantage of that and stand everything in. I feel like the more the better. But yeah, because you definitely have to like sponsor yourself without then becoming cocky and everything. I remember a big part for me was I don't really like just like talking about myself, but you have to do it a little bit in your essays, because they want to know about you. So definitely
you have to open up a bit. Well, thank you so much, Georgia. Best of luck for your future as a vet.
Thank you.
And I see we already have some questions. So first of all, again, Thank you. Gracias. Grazie. And I see that we have.
Obrigado.
Obrigado. Oh, sorry. I forgot the Portuguese. My Portuguese friends. So.
Okay.
I guess, yeah, we can open the floor. Thank you so much, George. It was really great hearing from you.
Thank you.
Hearing your experience. So we can open the floor to questions.
Yes, so thank you to all of you. It was really interesting. And so we got different questions. So let's start. The first one is, I really need to understand the difference between IELTS and TOEFL, which is better if I want to study abroad.
If we had a Europe every time they ask this question, right, Marco?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're not going to get into which is better, but we will say that they are similar in many aspects. But basically, what it comes down to is where you're applying and what they're requiring. In general, the TOEFL is accepted everywhere the IELTS is and more. It's actually the most accepted test of academic English for admissions purposes in the world. And it is more accepted within North America than the IELTS. Everywhere else, they're accepted equally, more or less. They're both accepted 100% of universities in the UK, 100% of universities in Ireland, Australia. So it really just kind of depends on what you're looking for. The TOEFL is a shorter test. It's just under 2 hours now. So that might be an advantage for you.
Yeah, and one more difference, and again, it depends on you yourself, what you prefer, is that the speaking part for the TOEFL is within the same session. So you won't have to go back or in the afternoon or take the speaking part another day. And it's via computer. So you won't be interacting with an examiner that will be asking questions. It will be all within the same session with your own computer or the test center's computer if you choose to take it at a test center.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying this. So let's move to the next one. They are asking if the platform for TOEFL is free.
Yes, TOEFL Test Ready is absolutely 100% free. It's you just have to register, like to create your own TOEFL account. Once you've created it, you can access the platform. There are some paid materials, but you will see where they are. The rest of it is 100% free.
And there are other free materials on there as well. There's an 8-week planning guide. So for
Yeah.
example, if you know that you're going to take the test in 2 months, right? There's actually a free PDF that you can download, which lays out a whole plan for you. If you want something, on paper or something more physical that you can take with you. There also is a free online course hosted by edX. It's a full online course called the Insider's Guide to the TOEFL. So there's a lot of free resources out there. There's also TOEFL TV, a YouTube channel which goes inside the test and it shows you examples of questions, tips how to answer them. So there's a lot of free resources out there to practice on your own. And of course, lots of language schools that prep courses, crash courses 1 month.
Perfect. Thank you. This was really helpful, I guess, for our students. And also kind of related to this, we got another question that is, do you have any advice about how to study for the TOEFL? Any techniques? I'm dyslexic and I found it really difficult to learn English.
Okay, so first of all, you should know that you can ask for some help in case you have some problems like dyslexia, for example. So you can ask, depending on what you usually get in at school, for example, you can ask for additional time, you can ask for extra breaks. Breaks are not there are no breaks in TOEFL normally, but you can ask for a break if needed. You can ask for a spell checker. So there are a lot of, let's say, things that can help you in case of dyslexia or other learning disabilities. The only important thing for you to know is you should make all of these requirements before registering for the test. So again, we go back to the TOEFL profile, TOEFL account. You will see a section next to actually the one about preparation that is TOEFL with accommodation. And there you can require all of the accommodation you need, of course, uploading the documents. And you can then send out the request. And once it is approved, you can register for the test. So this is the only step to remember.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So let's go with another question related to TOEFL. Sarah is asking, is the TOEFL also useful if I want to work abroad?
Yes. Marcus, you want to take this?
Sure, yeah. Again, it always depends on specific country requirements, specific job requirements. But for many countries, the TOEFL is accepted for visa purposes. For example, in Australia, it is accepted for visa purposes in Canada. So again, you have to kind of just look for where you want to work and what purposes exactly. With student visas in the US, for example, as well, student visas allow you usually to work, depending on the type of visa, sometimes up to 20 hours a week as a part-time job as well. And then also for post studies, graduate programs and postgraduate, and for professional studies, professional work as well, many times it is accepted. And within countries, for example, here in Spain, we have these, the oposiciones, these state exams. It is accepted as well there for many of these state exams to certify your English level.
Same thing in Italy. The TOEFL is recognized by MIM, Ministero di Istruzione del Merito. So it is an officially recognized test that can also be used for work purposes, for example, in Italy, but in many other countries.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And another question is, which is a good score to get accepted at a university in the UK? Really specific, but maybe
Yeah,
you can give us some insights.
Maybe Candy will know the answer more than we do, because I think it depends a lot on.
It definitely does depend. And I know I'm much more familiar with the graduate world than the undergraduate. I know that Cambridge and Oxford have a 110 for many of their graduate programs. So,
Yeah, I think in general, most undergrad schools in the US, for example, usually require somewhere in the 75 to 90 range. But Harvard, for example, requires a 105. So kind of depends. Most of them require a strong B2 range.
Okay, thank you. So now talking a bit about MBA, ATFED is asking us, can we have more information about MBA application as well?
Is that the question, is more information about MBA application?
Yeah, I guess like suggestions for essays related to the MBA.
So if you're going to apply to an MBA, like I said, the first thing you need to know is you need to know what you're up against. So you need to know what's required from the test to the letters of recommendation to your work experience to your resume. MBA applications run in rounds. So right now we're in the end of May and we're already, it's on. We are in the throes of applications, which are due in September. So you kind of also have to know when the deadlines are and get started in that process. Yeah, there's tons of information out there. A lot of it's good. A lot of it's very confusing, but I would say just try to figure out the main steps, which is to figure out what schools you want to go to, do your research. If you go to any school for MBA, like if you would go to London Business School or Columbia, you attend one of their events and they tell you what you want to know. So for example, if you're in Madrid, both Columbia Business School and Wharton are coming to Madrid in a month. So attend those events and you'll know what to do.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Candy. Let's go ahead with another question related to essays. Aurora is asking, is there something that you don't like or don't suggest to put in our essays?
Absolutely. Do not put negativity. Now, there's two reasons for that. One, again, remember, a person who is potentially stressed out and under pressure is reading your essay. They don't need to read your excuse and your negativity about how bad and unfair life was and how awful your professor was. Always find a positive spin, okay? I did have a client recently who had several job changes, which can be challenging when you're applying for an MBA, for example. And at first she wanted to explain it. Well, this happened and that happened. And I'm like, no. Let's step back. What did you get out of it? Job one, what was the positive thing? She's like, oh, well, I learned this and this. Let's focus on that. Then when I got to this job, I learned that and that and that. So she focused on the positive and she acknowledged quite honestly, I understand I have an unusual career trajectory for you, and I'd love to explain the reasoning. Stay positive and be honest. These are like really, really core things. Avoid the negativity, no negativity.
I really like this advice. Thank you so much, Candy.
Works on first
So,
date.
um, this is a question that maybe also Georgia can help us. They are asking, do you suggest to apply to different university in the US? I guess that this question came in the right moment in which Georgia was talking.
I guess she did say that she applied to several universities, so that could be a good idea to have more than just one chance.
Yeah, I applied to 12 again, which is a lot. But you know, I applied to like a big variety. What I've heard, at least what my counselor told me at the time, is that there are like three different levels. So like the higher ones, so like the Ivy Leagues, the ones that are like really hard to get into, and then that there are the ones like you can get into like your levels, and then you know, depending on like also what you want to do, it's very specific. Every university really, the level depends on what you want to do there, because they have like different majors. So I would definitely say apply to different ones, because you never know if you're like gonna get in or not, and it's better to just have like a backup. Also, because some schools maybe won't like get you just because like accept you because they know that like you're not gonna go here, and you apply just like for safety. So you know, the more you apply, the more variety you have, and also you can choose, and it's always better to choose than just like have one choice that is like pushed into you. So I would definitely recommend that.
And actually, Georgia, you mentioned you use the Common App, right? The Common App
Yeah.
is an app. I don't know if they know this, but it's an app that basically allows you to apply to many universities at once, and you can kind of save some of the work and sometimes some of the fees, because it is expensive sometimes if you're going to apply to a lot of universities.
Yeah.
However, many universities will actually waive the fees if you ask for some financial assistance, or so it is important to look into that as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you a lot, also, Georgia. Another question. Amal is asking if the certificates, also if you know IELTS and TOEFL, if they has an expiry date.
Okay, that is another very common question. Yes and no. What does that mean? It means that the 99% of universities, institutions, governments, whoever accepts TOEFL or other certifications scores will only accept scores that are not older than 2 years. So in that sense, yes. So you should consider that your score is valid in terms of official applications for 2 years. So you cannot apply to Harvard or Cambridge or London School of Economics or wherever if you have a score that is older than 2 years. Why? Because the language proficiency changes. So after 2 years, if you took your test 5 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe you're not that proficient anymore, or maybe you're more proficient than that. So how can they know? So the result is guaranteed within this 2-year time span. Now, this said, if you want to put your TOEFL score in your CV to give your possible employers an idea of your average English proficiency level, then this is perfectly possible, and there is no expiration date for that.
Good to know. Thank you so much, Marta. And then we have another final question. They are asking if you offer other tests.
We do. We offer, for example, TOEIC, Test of English for International Communication. TOEIC, while TOEFL, as Marcus said at the beginning, is an academic test, so specifically thought for university students, for example, but also again for visa or work requirements. TOEIC is more based on the everyday life or work life. So the situation you will find are different. The listening tasks or the writing tasks are not do not take place in an academic environment. Unlike TOEFL, they take place in an everyday life environment. We also offer GRE, for example. That is not an English proficiency test. It is a test in English, but it is used for to assess quantitative reasoning, verbal reasoning. So it's often a requirement by, for example, for application to MBAs or engineering school, something that is more technical. Am I forgetting something, Marcus?
Yeah, and also just to point out, so yeah, the GRE test, which Candy mentioned, actually is a really big requirement for master's programs around the world as well. So it's a general knowledge test, basically. And then also the SAT, which Candy mentioned, which is a test that most universities require or recommend for their applications, is actually the ETS works very closely with the College Board in the US for the design and administration of the SAT as well. So Educational Testing Service is actually the largest private research and assessment institution in the world. So.
Thank you. This was really interesting. So thanks a lot to who made this question. So, okay, I guess that we're done with the questions.
And we would like to leave you with what we promised before. So this is the discount you get, once again, valid for Italy, Spain, and Portugal, the countries where most of you are from. And it's a 50% discount code for the TOEFL IBT. So it's valid until the end of September. So when registering, just insert this TOEFL CT3 discount code and you will get 50% off.
Thank you so much, Marta. Okay, so thanks again to our panelists to be with us today, and thanks to everyone to have joined our webinar. So I'm really impressive because you were really curious and responsive. So I'm really happy to be our panelist today. So I hope that we have reached our goal and that you learn a lot from this webinar made in collaboration with ETS Global. I'd like to remind you that you can contact our panelists at the email that you saw in the slide. So maybe Marta, if you can go.
Sure.
Okay. In this way, also our student can take note of your email, and also you can discover more about their tests in the website that you can see here. So if you're interested in receive our certificate of attendance, you can also click in the link that I've sent now in the chat. And keep also in mind that we will share the recording with you in the following days, so keep an eye on your email. At this point, I wanted to ask our panelists if you want to leave a message before saying goodbye to our students.
Good luck.
I would say do not give up. The process of applying to a university abroad is long, but you are on the right path, so don't give up. You got it.
And don't use ChatGPT for your essays. All right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Gracias.
Obrigado. Gracias.